Well, after reviewing the LSU game, players really played hard in the game, really competed well, especially in the second half. I was really proud of the way they responded to a lot of adversity in the game, even though some of it was a little bit self-inflicted by some of the mistakes that we made. But so, you know, what we're all about right now is trying to correct those things that we haven't been doing well, capitalize on the opportunities when we have them in the game, and be more consistent in taking advantage of the opportunities that we have, and be smart enough about understanding the paradox of success, that you take one step forward in being successful, and then you're always at the risk of losing that in the next step that you take. So the most important thing is to stay focused on the task. You know, it's almost like one season is over and a new season is beginning, and each one of those games is very, very important to our team, and that's the way we'd like for our team to approach it. We had some outstanding performances in the game last week. Drew Davis, Julio Jones, Marquise Mays all did a fantastic job on offense with their production, consistency, and performance. Javier Arenas and Marcel Darius, and Javi also being the SEC Defensive Player of the Week, and Darrell Harris had a couple tackles in special teams and did a really good job in kickoff coverage, and Lee Tiffin, and you know, Lee's also been named to semifinals for the Lou Groza. So, you know, we want to put this game behind us, even though we're proud of what our team was able to accomplish in the game, and look forward to the challenge that we have at Mississippi State. You know, Dan Mullen has done a really good job with this team. Of their 5 losses, every team has been a top 25 team that they've lost to, and 4 of them are currently ranked in the top 10 or 12 or something like that. Anthony Dixon is a really, really good back. These guys probably run the football as well as anybody we played against this year. They have sort of the, you know, Florida spread philosophy, and it's a little difficult, different preparation, you know, for us. So our players are going to have to really do a good job of getting prepared in this game and understanding what they have to do to stop the plays that they run, because they're not all conventional type things that you see all the time. Their defense plays hard, very physical, tough. Got a pretty good secondary, and they really do a good job of coaching on special teams, and really try to play good defense, don't turn the ball over, score in the red area when they get the opportunity, which most good running teams can do that, and you know, play really good defense. So, and I think this team does all those things, and be a challenge for us from an injury standpoint. I don't think we have any new injuries to report. You know, Terry Grant's going to try to do a little bit in practice today, see where he is. Cullen Peak will probably do more and more in practice as the week progresses, including today. And we have normal bumps and bruises that guys typically have on Monday, but nobody that we expect not to be able to practice. Chance Womack is sick, so if you're not out there, don't think I'm not telling you the truth.
Coach, you said we want to correct things we haven't done well. What are some of the things you haven't done well, in your opinion?
Well, I think fairly obvious that, you know, we need to play better in the red area on both sides of the ball. You know, LSU was 2 for 2 both times they got down there, and we have not been as productive as we'd like in terms of scoring touchdowns, you know, in the red zone. Thought we played a lot better on offense in this game. I thought Greg did a good job. We had great balance in the game. We were able to run the ball, but also throw it and make some explosive plays. So very pleased with the way we played offense, but again, finishing drives. And it's sort of shooting yourself in the foot. You know, last week I talked about the, you know, penalty on the 3-yard line, 1st and 3 at the 3. I talked about fumbling the snap from center, 1st and 3 at the 3. You know, this time we get 3rd and 1 at the 1. We got 12 guys in the huddle. I mean, that's really not something that the other team's doing. So I know your next question is what are we going to do different? I mean, we need to correct what we do. There's more in this game that's about what we do than probably any game that we played. And it usually always comes down to what you do, and it was the same way in this game. And I just think it's consistency in performance, better communication, better execution, a little more discipline in what we're doing. And I think, those little things will help us get better results.
And so much of what Florida was able to do with Coach Mullen last year was based around Tim Tebow. Are there similarities in that offense that he has now installed at Mississippi State, or is it based more around the personnel he has now?
I think it's changed relative to the personnel that he has, but I think the core philosophy, zone dive, zone option, counter plays, quarterback reads are the same. They also have number 14, who they use more as a running quarterback when they put him in there. But 16 can run the ball. He runs. He makes yards running it. He's a great competitor. Does a really good job of executing their offense and does a good job of reading for them. So, they're. I think philosophically they're the same. The way they utilize their personnel is probably a little bit different.
Coach, I don't know how much of this you've heard, but there's been a lot of attention focused on the interception call or a non-interception. Does that bother you after a big win, that so much attention?
Doesn't bother me at all. Does it bother you? If it was an interception, that didn't mean it win the game. And I saw it, and it was hard for me to tell on our film. I don't watch the TV stuff, so I can't tell you or give you an opinion one way or the other. I just really do believe this. If I was an official and I was making what I made officiating because I loved the game and I loved doing it, and I was getting criticized by the media, including our announcers on TV, like these guys are getting criticized, I'd step back and say, I think I'll go to the lake this weekend. You can have this. That's what I'd do. Those guys, they do a great job. They work their tail off and try to do a good job. And, we have a guy jump off sides. They don't get criticized like that. Both are a mistake, one way or the other, right? Can somebody stand up and fight for these guys and what they do for the game? And probably get less for it than anybody.
And this is not just related to SEC officiating, but Mike, you've been complimentary of Mike's Live, and I was kind of wondering how you think the job he's done long-term with the TV contracts and everything, and whether in this kind of...
Well, I think Mike has done a wonderful job. This league is thriving, and, not only from an exposure standpoint and, a trademark of, what the league's all about and what it stands for and what has been accomplished, but also financially and every other way. I think he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, Coach, does Rolando McClain ever surprise you as good as he is? Do you ever see something on film and just that's even above what you might expect of him?
Well, Ro has a high expectation for what he wants to accomplish and what he wants to do, and we have a tremendous respect for him as a competitor and a leader of our team. And I know it means as much to him for us to do the right things and play well as it does anybody else, around here. So we have a tremendous respect, but he doesn't really surprise me in any way. He does a great job, and I guess when you do that, that kind of becomes the expectation. And he's played really well for us all year long, and we're pleased with it and proud of him, and hope a lot of people recognize that.
Coach, you've been at the helm of a number of championship teams, and it seems like your message to them has always been the same: one game at a time. The analogy of climbing the mountain has been used, and also take care of business at home, not really worried about what the other team does. Can you just comment on how well this particular team this year has bought into that?
Well, so far so good, but the challenge is the next game. How are you going to respond to the next game? And I think it gets more and more difficult to maintain that level of consistency mentally, because each and every team we play is capable of beating any team on any given day. I mean, so, and, you know, this team was right down to the wire with LSU. Had it, first and 1 at the 1 or 2 or whatever, and didn't punch it in to win. But yet, LSU's the game of the year, and this game is like, I mean, I don't see it that way. All right, and I don't want the players to see it that way. That's a perception that's created by, I would not accuse anybody in this room of creating anything of the kind, so I don't want anybody to really think that. But some kind of way, it gets perceived. So, and that's what we call clutter.
Nick, after the game, Greg McElroy talked about criticism he'd received in recent weeks and how it had bothered him. I was wondering, had you heard those comments, what your reaction was, and have you talked to him about it, or will you?
Well, I talked to him about it a lot when it was happening, you know, and I think a lot of us, you know, tried to talk to him about it. And I think that sometimes when you're prideful and you really want to do a good job and it means a lot to you, like it does Greg, it bothers you a little bit more when you're not satisfying everybody. But at the same time, he needs to satisfy himself by doing his job well for his team and his teammates, and not worry about everybody else outside of here, because that's kind of clutter too. And that can get you off track of what you need to be focusing on in terms of how you do what you do, not how you're doing. And I think that's what got Greg a little bit off track, was he was thinking more of how he was doing than what he was doing. And I've said that before. And that's not a good way to play, and that's not a good way to compete. And that puts a lot of anxiety, you know, out there that doesn't need to be there. And we've talked about it quite a bit, and you know, hopefully he learns and grows from it and can handle it better in the future. Because really, when you're the quarterback, you probably get too much credit when it goes good, and you probably get too much of the blame when it goes bad. And that's the nature of the beast, that's the nature of the position, and that's kind of the way it is.
Coach, I know you've been asked about the proliferation of the spread before. Mississippi State's obviously been a more traditional offense until this year. When it comes to defending the spread, are we reaching a point now where the nickel look is almost the base defense now?
Well, I think every team, you know, goes about it a little bit differently. You know, some teams still play the spread with regular people. You know, we can do it both ways, and we always make a decision on how we feel like we can adjust best to what they do relative to the players that we have. And the most difficult thing in regular people, depending on your system and your scheme, is not the basic formations, but how you adjust to all the other formations. You know, it's a lot easier when you're in nickel and have 5 defensive backs to adjust to formation multiples, like empty and, you know, 4 wideouts and, you know, those types of things. So, and not get linebacker type guys, you know, spread out in space where they're not used to playing. So we always have to make those decisions based on those types of things. But when you play a really good running team like this team, you know, there's certainly a consideration for just leaving your big guys in there and playing with them.
Coach, how would you? What was the biggest improvement you've seen in Javier's technique as a cornerback since you got here, and also how does his personality help drive the team?
Well, Javier's been a good player for us and for the last 2 years, and I think he's a very conscientious guy. He's a great competitor. It breaks his heart when he doesn't do it right. It means something to him, and he really wants to be a guy that really helps his team every way that he can, and his teammates. He's a great competitor. He plays hard. He plays with a lot of toughness, and you know, you just can't respect guys like him any more than anything in the world because of the great respect I have for great competitors, and he's certainly one of those guys. And he has made improvement because it's important to him. He always works on his technique, and he's very conscientious about it. And he plays lots of roles for us. You know, besides corner, he plays nickel. and also being the return guy, and he contributes in a positive way in every one of those areas.
Coach, you mentioned not wanting Greg to get bogged down in the clutter. At times during this season, did you ever sense Julio maybe overthinking or a sense of frustration?
I really didn't, but, I think that in Julio's case, he was hurt and missed 2 games and probably came back and played in 2 games and wasn't maybe 100%. And, I think sometimes y'all create expectations for guys that they can't live up to. And I think it's unfair. I really do. Guys are 18 and 19 years old. They're college students. They're supposed to be going to college. They're not pros. They're not getting paid. All right, so, and we kind of make them what we make them. So, and it is probably difficult for them at times, but I think they have to understand that the most important thing is focus on playing well. Focus on the things that's going to help you play well and get all the other stuff out of your head. And become very result-oriented, and sometimes you lose focus on how to get the results, and that's not really the best way to get them.
Is it in the Coaching 101 manual how to bring a team back to earth after a big win, or is it something that coaches have to learn on their own?
I really don't have that manual, so I don't know. I got some of my dad's old books from Pop Warner when we ran the single wing, and nothing in there about it. He used just to make us run the hill more, and bring more leaves down after dark. But there was a film about that someplace, when I was over in Birmingham speaking. Pretty authentic, too, except it had to take the movie in the daytime because the camera wouldn't work at night. But when I played, we did it after dark because we practiced until it got dark. But anyway, I just think that what I talk about all the time is what you try to emphasize to the players. And take care of your business, and your business will take care of you, and focus on what you do, and it's about what you do, and prepare yourself and practice and the way you need to be the best player that you can be. Do your job for your team, and that's going to give us the best chance to be successful. And it takes a lot of discipline to do that. It takes a lot of passion in terms of what you want to accomplish, and that's what we continue to do. But that same paradox of success is still out there. When you have success, the next opportunity, you can lose that. And you got to be smart enough to know what it takes to continue to try to improve and perform well. And remember this, the other guys that were playing, they got scholarships too. All right, and they're not bad, and they're pretty good. And we have a tremendous amount of respect for them because they played every team they played this year tough. And we've only beat them 1 out of the last 3 years. Is that correct? Which was last year. And I remember going over there 2 years ago. So I'm like an elephant. I can tell you how we lost a game in 1984 if you want to know about it.